Upon these waters, a nation's fate was bound to storm and steel.
From the south they came, the warships of Namhan, a tide of iron and flame.
On the shore, the people of Dai Viet watched, their breath bound in fear and hope.
And there he stood, Ngo Quyen, the guardian of his land. Behind their leader, the sons of Viet swore to fight, though death awaited.
Beneath the restless tide, iron-capped fangs took root in silence.
He marked the tide's secret rhythm, where heaven itself would fight for Viet.
Every hand turned to war, for the nation's fate was forged not by kings alone, but by its people.
Upon the river's skin they hardened their skill, for the storm to come.
Plans were etched in bamboo and will, where wisdom turned to steel.
In quiet rooms, love bound courage to duty, and farewells were sealed without a word.
Thus the field was set, two destinies drawn upon the waters of Bach Dang. From the sea they advanced, a host of warships crowding the river's breath. Upon each deck, steel and numbers promised victory through fear alone. Yet in the villages, unity burned brighter than fear, binding all hearts as one. At the river's heart, strategy outweighed strength, and resolve outweighed fear.
Yet unseen beneath the tide, the river,
confident in numbers, the generals pressed forward, blind to the snare.
Though few, they carried the land within their blood and the river in their veins. Against the tide of empire stood a people small in number, yet vast in will. The river itself was a weapon, turning time and tide against the invader. For them, this war was no mere battle, but a vow bound to soil and blood.
to him fell the burden of a nation, measured in heartbeats and tides.
This clash was more than life or death. It was the destiny of a people.
Beneath the river's skin, hidden fangs awaited the unwary.
Every hand labored. Every glance swore a vow without words. He measured the tide with his eyes, and the river itself became his ally.
Through silence and rhythm, warriors shaped themselves into the river's edge.
Supplies turned to weapons. Fire itself would answer the invader.
Unaware, the Empire's fleet sailed deeper, blind to the trap beneath the tide.
Even the smallest bore the weight of destiny, their silence stronger than fear.
He read the river as one reads a blade, every flow a stroke of war. Fire would join water as the nation's unyielding allies. Every tool, every ember, every hand was bent toward resistance.
Still, the invaders pressed on, certain of triumph, blind to the snare. The Empire's strength loomed vast, yet its fate lay hidden in the tide. The Armada surged forward, countless prows biting into the river's heart.
From the shadowed banks, warriors emerged, steady as the tide.
A storm of arrows fell, blotting out the heavens with fire and steel.
Flame consumed their sails. Chaos spread across the armada.
Terror crept into the hearts of seasoned warriors.
Unaware of the snare, their greatest ships pressed deeper into the tide. The drums of Dai Viet roared, shaking river and sky alike.
Flames rode the wind, turning the storm itself into a weapon.
Their might turned fragile, undone by flame and fear.
Silent shadows cut across the water, striking like blades, unseen.
Even the grandest ships trembled at the sight of fire upon the tide.
The river blazed with chaos, yet the true trap remained hidden beneath the tide.
The fleet closed in, iron and wood grinding toward shore. From the shadows, Viet warriors struck, swift as the tide itself.
Steel met steel, and the river turned into a furnace of blood.
Every clash carried the weight of a nation's survival.
Smoke veiled the river as fire consumed the invaders' strength.
Clash upon clash, chaos reigned on burning decks.
One by one, they sank beneath the tide, swallowed whole by the river. Flame became their ally, turning the river into a sea of fire.
Command wavered beneath the flames, as order strained against the river's will.
Amidst the inferno, Ngo Quyen waited for the perfect moment.
The river turned. The tide unveiled the teeth of Dai Viet.
Blind to the danger, the armada pressed deeper into their doom.
The tide turned. The river itself joined the battle.
Hidden fangs emerged, sharpened for the enemy's ruin. Their mighty hulls struck steel. The river denied them passage. One by one, the invaders plunged into the watery grave. Flame and steel conspired, dragging giants beneath the tide. The warriors of Dai Viet surged, striking with ruthless precision.
The drums of Dai Viet thundered, summoning unyielding courage.
Panic spread like fire. Men hurled themselves into the abyss.
At his signal, the tide of Dai Viet rose with unstoppable force.
Hull after hull shattered, swallowed by the sharpened tide.
Too late, the snare stood bare, steel where water once concealed the path.
The tide betrayed the invaders, sealing their fate in fire and water.
The tide betrayed them, and steel fangs rose from the deep.
Hull after hull was split, spilling lives into the hungry current.
From the burning banks, the sons of Dai Viet surged to strike.
Skill and resolve pressed forward, turning broken decks into a field of victory.
Their banners drowned, their command broken in the tide.
Encircled, they burned, consumed by arrow, flame, and tide.
Terror seized them, for no path remained unscorched.
Upon the waves, Ngo Quyen stood, unshaken as destiny neared.
Ships splintered, swallowed whole by river and flame. The river turned into a grave, where ambition met ruin. Ringed by flame and iron, the invader's fate was sealed. The current kept its course, carrying courage and ruin alike into silence. The fleeing host leapt to the waters, yet the tide was no refuge. Great ships burned and broke, swallowed whole by the river's maw. The river bore witness, carrying the fallen without end. Upon the burning banks, banners of victory rose.
Ngo Quyen rode the banks, his command unbroken, his will unyielding.
A nation's will stood triumphant, forged in fire and flood.
At the river's edge, one man turned the tide of history. Here the waters themselves rose as weapons of the land.
From ruin they gathered strength, weapons of the fallen now theirs.
The people came forth, tears of deliverance upon their faces.
Victory stood immortal, as moonlight crowned the blooded tide. This was the place where waves became weapons and freedom was won. The tide receded, leaving behind a graveyard of ash and bone. The people returned, their joy rising from the ashes of despair.
Warriors embraced, weary yet unbroken, bound by victory.
In silence, he gazed upon the waters, carrying the weight of history.
With stone and timber, they carved memory into the land. They bowed with flowers and incense, honoring the fallen.
In young eyes, the sacrifice became a promise for the future.
From ruin, they rebuilt, for peace demanded strength anew.
Life returned to the fields, where war's shadow once lay.
The victor returned, not as conqueror, but as guardian of his people.
Blood had mingled with the tide, etching Bach Dang into eternity. Thus the river carried a nation's triumph, and a name for all. Bach Dang no longer echoed with screams, but with the banners of triumph. They gave thanks to the ancestors, whose spirit had guided their hands. In the gaze of children, warriors stood as giants, guardians of tomorrow. Upon the riverbank stood Ngo Quyen, whose vision turned tide into sword.
The river's hidden fangs emerged, scarred yet victorious. Upon stone, they carved the name that none would forget.
Their offerings rose like vows, binding blood and soil together.
The river, once battlefield, now lay in solemn peace. The current bore away the relics of conquest, leaving only memory.
In their faces shone the promise of a nation reborn.
Bach Dang, 938, where river became sword and a nation found its destiny.
The Epic of Bach Dang endures, an undying hymn of freedom.